Last week, we made it from Tainan to Jinmen, just a few kilometers away from mainland China. We checked out tanks and forts, got a feel for this unique island group through its architecture, and enjoyed the island's nature and surroundings. On this episode, we'll be doing a lot of that too, but much more as we work through my second, third, and final days on Jinmen. Day number 2 and my first stop is Deyue Tower and Shuitou Village, which quickly became two of my favourite places in Jinmen. Visiting here gives you an awesome insight into the overseas Chinese community. For hundreds of years, many of them made their riches in Southeast Asia, including Singapore and Indonesia. You'll find lots of bits and explanations about this and the overseas Chinese community, an insight like no other. The story goes that many overseas Chinese who made their riches then came back to Jinmen to build houses. Having spent time abroad, they'd build Western-style houses. Many of these Western-style houses are actually noticeable throughout Jinmen, contrasting sharply with the otherwise very Chinese-looking Minnan style from Fujian that can be seen all over the island. Deyue Tower came into existence as a rich merchant built his property, and it soon needed to be protected. Around the time of building, piracy from the Japanese was popular, and this tower lies in the heart of the richest district in Jinmen. I spent way longer here than I planned and could have spent much longer, just getting lost down the little streets. The explanations are all in English and actually really useful. So give yourself some time here if you have it. My next stop was the sandy beach, and I wasn't just here for the beach vibes, trust me, it was too cold. But rather, I was actually here to find something that you can't usually find on most beaches in the world. Okay, another place we had to come to at low tide, because I've heard that there's a second tank here. It's very windy, it's about 15 degrees, but it's like white sand beaches, beautiful sunshine, and it's all to myself. Okay, I see something ahead. It's very windy. Think. See the tank. Yeah. I'd only heard about it and seen some pictures, and I was worried that the tide was too high already. But sure enough, after a short walk, I eventually came across it. Visiting the Zhaishan Tunnel on Jinmen is another absolute must and one of the most popular sites on the island. It's a large complex where you can explore both outside and inside. A walk around takes about 20 minutes, and the whole cave blasts out peaceful classical music during your tour around the tunnel system. Every October, there's a classical concert that plays here. If you can catch this, I imagine the acoustics must be incredible. Music aside, this tunnel system carries a large amount of history and also holds a large amount of back-breaking pain and effort that went into its building. It was done by hand by the military in order to store and move military equipment such as ships and submarines. Outside you'll see these on display, and you can also see the tunnel from the outside. Approaching the end of my second day, I stopped off at Zhushan Village, another place I thought I could get lost in and just spend hours wandering around. The Minnan architecture here is just gorgeous, and the people I ran into in the village were very friendly. It was just generally a really beautiful place to have an afternoon stroll around. Nanshan is then very close by, offering a nice view of the harbour and Jincheng city. You can also have a look around inside the building here. Come back here at night for a nice view of the city, which I will show you later on. And finally, to end the day, I visited the Maoshan Pagoda for a nice sunset view. I'm tired. End of the day. Still gotta get up there. Day 3, I decided to head to the opposite side of the island, to finally take off most of the other sites for my time in Jinmen. First stop was Qiong Lin Village, where I can introduce you guys, for the first time, to the wind gods. These little creatures you'll find dotted all around over Jinmen. They are wind gods, put here for protection against the wind. In more recent years, locals have started to put red capes on them to keep them safe and warm from the cold, bitter winds. Qiong Lin Village is a nice stop-off for those that enjoy a stroll through the villages with traditional architecture and a bit of history and peace outside of the city. It was also a nice stop on my way to the Mashan broadcasting station. Mashan was an area of strategic military importance, as the closest place you can get to mainland China from Jinmen's main island. This is a broadcasting station, used to send out propaganda messages to the soldiers on mainland China to surrender and join the ROC armed forces. It's now open for tourists to visit. Inside the broadcasting station, you can see the original equipment used from the broadcasters and get an insight into the media they used to play across the waters. From here you can see Xiamen, which is located just 2 kilometers away. To get to this point, you have to walk down a very long tunnel for a good few minutes. Shishan Howitzer Fort is next up, and if you only visit one fort, you should make this the one. It's one of the main attractions on the island and pretty big and well maintained. There are also cannon drills at certain times of the day. If you can catch one, that's not to be missed. Next up is the August 23rd Artillery Battle Museum. One I'd really recommend if you have the time, and definitely one for the weapons enthusiasts, as there are various weapons on display here. It was built in 1988 to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the 23rd of August 1958 Artillery War during the Second Taiwan Strait Crisis. It's pretty big and you can spend quite a bit of time getting lost around here. Jinmen Guesthouse is the facilities that used to house famous visitors coming to Taiwan over the years during the time of war. This includes the former Singaporean Prime Minister. Back in Jincheng, and it's time to explore the city. And this time I head to Mofan Street. A charming street with Western Chinese fusion architecture with both modern and traditional shops located on this ancient street. It's a really nice place to walk after dinner. It's good to head and visit whilst you are having a look around Jincheng Old Street, which is an absolute must when you're staying in Jinmen. Here, you'll also find the troops' headquarters, built in 1682. It's a beautiful building with detailed historic explanations from the time, giving you an insight into the past. And that's it for my penultimate day on Jinmen. Just time for a look at the lights across over to China at Nanshan before heading back. And starting my final day in Jinmen. One final stop today before I fly back, and it's time for a bit of hiking. Taiwu Mountain is the highest point in Jinmen. You can't actually reach the peak here, which is only a few hundred meters up above sea level anyway, as it's occupied by the military, but there's lots to see on the way, including inscriptions on rocks and old watchtowers. And the signs will guide you which way to go. You can choose to stay on the main path, which is a road, or you can choose to follow the ominous blue arrows. Either way will get you there, promise. At the end of the trail is a temple and coffee shop. You can enjoy a drink here before you head on back down. And before I knew it, my time in Jinmen was up. Visiting Jinmen was a pretty eye-opening experience to me. With North Korea being such a big part of my life the past few years, it's only natural that I could draw lots of parallels from the intense military presence both in Taiwan and in North Korea. Yet it surprised me to what extent, and also to what extent they're dissimilar. There were obvious things such as the broadcasting wall that blasts out music and the military posts dotted around pretty much everywhere, sometimes manned, sometimes not. And much of Kinmen was bombed during the Taiwan Strait crisis, and it's clear that this remains deep in the psyche of the local people, just like in North Korea. You can also still see lots of aspects of war and destruction everywhere you look, and the idea of separation, two pieces of land and two sets of people, separated only by the politics that divides them. Families and cultures torn apart, with little regard to history, and instead, the power struggle for control takes precedence. And yet, whilst there were some things that were surprisingly similar, other aspects were so totally different. And of course that's to be expected. These are two wildly different cases, and in the end it gave me an important reminder that whilst I've set up my life in Taiwan and feel very safe and settled, there's a continued threat of war, however high or low as it fluctuates with the politics. It's still there, just like in North Korea. It's still there, it's still unresolved. And it's a reminder that no matter how much the past is in the past, it's actually still very present. And much like South and North Korea, the people of China and Taiwan are caught up in that. Jinmen is not actually one island, but a set of islands. In the next episode, we'll be exploring Little Kinmen, the closest point you can get to mainland China from Taiwan. It also has islands Erdan and Dadan. Not open during winter due to strong winds, these islands recently opened in 2019 to tourism. As part of my plan to visit all of Taiwan's 166 islands, I'll definitely be back here to explore some more. For now though, I'm happy to get back to a very warm Tainan.